Good evening. You're very welcome to Ulster-Scots Voices. We're going to hear from people from an Ulster-Scots background, and we're going to discuss all things Ulster-Scots, past, present and future. I'm delighted to welcome this evening a number of special guests that we have, and you're all very welcome with us here. But first of all, to you, Emma Shaw, who is a well-known commentator within Ulster-Scots Unionist communities, main focus on educational disadvantaged. Emma, you're very welcome with us here this evening.
Thank you.
Then we have Diane Armstrong, community worker who specialises in the respite care of children with special educational and family needs. Diane, you're very welcome with us here this evening as well. And then we have Evan Morton. Evan is a well-known figure within the business world and specialising in advertising and design. And Evan has been very active within the Lisburn Chamber of Commerce. So again, Evan, you're very welcome with us here this evening. And then we have Gary MacDonald, and Gary is the business editor with the Irish News. He's also a keen member within the pipe band community, someone I know well within that community, and is keen within his role to, in every aspect of life, to expand the visibility of Ulster-Scots wherever he is and to a wider audience. So we're going to start, and Gary, I'm going to start and I'm going to pick on you here first, but in particular because it's something that's a close passion of mine as well. And Gary, you know, you have that keen interest within the piping world, but a keen interest as well within music and the arts. And whilst the music of the Highland bagpipes continues to flourish here across Northern Ireland, as well as those who are picking up the flute or the accordion or the snare drum, yet sometimes the Ulster-Scots community don't seem to engage fully with, you know, the arts in general. You know, sometimes we seem to miss our focus on, you know, that literature or the poetry, you know. So what can be done to encourage our community as such, our Ulster-Scots community, to engage more on the arts side of our culture?
Yes, Ulster, and as I say, pipe bands is my background, but the Ulster-Scots culture obviously covers a lot more than that. It covers storytelling, poetry, dance, all of that. And I do think that while pipe bands is the sector that I'm in, I do think that there can be a lot more done to promote Ulster-Scots and the culture. There is a pot of money there. It might be an idea if organisations were better encouraged, I suppose, to apply for the grants and how they can go about it.
Just picking up on that theme of what you're saying there, Gary, about trying to encourage, you know, groups and our bands, you know, to sort of target and go after that fund as such. You know, Emma, from your perspective, sort of within the Belfast area, like I know we were talking about pipe bands here. I know there's not that many pipe bands within Belfast, but you know, what have you seen sort of from an Ulster-Scots perspective within the communities of sort of how music and the arts can be developed a bit more?
I think it tends to be the perception that Ulster-Scots aren't interested in poetry and arts, but actually we've seen the success of recent plays by Robert Niblock, which obviously talked about the David Irvine experience, and he has a book of poetries and there's many others like him. I think what actually is core though is the educational disadvantage that face a lot of the working class communities. And so when you're struggling to get access or opportunities to jobs, hobbies, or what might be deemed as hobbies like music, the arts, can be seen as secondary because you need to put food on the table.
And I suppose in some ways, and I know we have touched on it here, you know, about putting that culture on display as such. And, you know, what's your thoughts around, you know, should the Arts Council be doing more to sort of try and develop more centres, more theatres, or more venues that, you know, we could sort of, you know, put that Ulster-Scots, you know, culture on display?
I don't think we really need more theatres. I think we need to make better use of what we have within the community. Why not put it on in an Orange Hall? Why not put it on in a community centre and use what we've got already? Because money isn't limitless, and we need to be able to use what we've got. And also, when you're using those old buildings, you're doing them up and making them more serviceable, saving money in the long run.
Your point is, really real well made. There are so many facilities that we currently have within our Ulster-Scots community, and 100% right, let's get the life back into those. Evan, you come from more of a business background into this. Is there more that business could do to sort of home in and help our Ulster-Scots community?
Well, I think so now. I've been involved with the Belfast International Tattoo for 10 years now, and that is an event that has started from scratch. Obviously, it's not at the same level as the Edinburgh Tattoo, but the organisers do their best, and businesses can get involved in that, whether it's sponsorship as such. But in terms of the visitors that it brings to Northern Ireland, and I think it could be better promoted to the likes of our American visitors who are coming to the city. People from the Republic and GB are visiting Belfast on a weekend, and I think there's a lot of work that we can all work together to promote that event, but that's just one example. I think there's lots of examples of events and entertainment, for example, that takes right across the province.
What can we do as voices within the Ulster-Scots community to make Ulster-Scots cool? What could we try to do?
I personally think Ulster-Scots is pretty cool. And again, they've done a lot of work on advertising, even single words that we all use, on a daily basis that people maybe don't know that they're speaking Ulster-Scots. And this is across the board. Everyone will say words depending on what part of this place you live. That will be Ulster-Scots words that there's an Ulster-Scots connection to. So it is pretty cool when you hear someone saying, well, if you're asking directions, well, it's Fernance, that pub down there, and you think, well, that's I do like that. I do like that coolness of the dialect that we don't know. What you don't know, you're talking Ulster-Scots.
You're quite right. Sometimes we say things, completely in Ulster cells.
Absolutely.
It's pure Ulster-Scots at the end of the day. Is it time for an Ulster-Scots influencer?
I think if you're really trying to target like the younger generation to make sure you've got that sustainability, you need to go where the young people are essentially, which is TikTok, which is Snapchat, and that will push people outside of their comfort zone. But why not get young people in as interns to show you how it's done? So I think there's a lot, and I don't class myself as a young person. I have to get our teenagers to show me how to work things. But I do think, young people are more adept to wanting to know about their ethnicity and their cultural background now. They're doing DNA tests, they're wanting to find out, well, where are we from? What's a place name related to? Schools have started to do a little bit more work with the agency in terms of Ulster-Scots language, but I think it needs to go a little bit further than that, because as a community we have to take ownership of that. Young people are only in school 13% of their time, and so we need to take ownership of it as a community and help drive that forward.
And from a business perspective, and looking at it particularly even from a PR point of view, is there more that we could be doing?
Well, definitely. I mean, social media has been a revolution, and it gives young people the tools really to get the message out there. And we've mentioned TikTok, etc., Instagram. They're so useful at getting imagery out there, music, etc. And I think more training in particular would be very, very useful to that next generation.
I do actually think there's a gap in the market for a young influencer now in Ulster-Scots. We've chatted about it here, but on TikTok, yes. I'm not particularly as au fait with TikTok as I may be with older social media tools like Facebook. But what I do know on TikTok and Snapchat, I can't ever recall seeing very much. So there's probably a gap in the market for some young entrepreneurial individual to come along and start doing some stuff.
The only one thing I would add in terms of social media and young people, so obviously the young person would need supported, because social media is an absolute minefield. Yeah. The criticism, they're still learning and growing themselves. And so I think one thing that we would need to be mindful of if we're asking young people to take on that role is we need to help them build their resilience, and we need to remind other people that they are going through this process of learning. So they may make mistakes. The difference is when we make them in our own community, only a handful of people see them. When you make them online, hundreds of thousands of people can see them. And so when we're asking young people to take that on, that in itself can be a large task.
Dan, I'm going to come to you, because I know you come more from a social care background. You feel that we as people sometimes can maybe hold back from, from the benefit system as such. Do you see that we have the proper support network there, for people to actually get the benefits that they actually do need? Do you feel that that system is there?
Yes, I do, because there are other organisations, for example, Bernardo's, who do help with families with their needs. There's plenty of social services help for them. It's just they're kind of a forgotten community, children with special needs, because they may never be able to play a musical instrument, they may never be able to do Irish or Highland dancing. They're just a little group on their own, but that shouldn't stop them really going out and enjoying the culture. It just makes it a wee bit more difficult if you've got 2 children in the one family with special needs and the transport and stuff like that. If there's crowds about, it's hard to wheel 2 wheelchairs through that kind of thing. So it's a special entity for themselves, and sometimes I think if it's too difficult, they just keep to themselves and don't socialise and aren't able to enjoy and experience the cultures that are out there.
Well, do you think then, the Ulster Community Network that we have throughout the country here as such, is there more that they could be doing to sort of help and to facilitate, bringing those people in, and making it that, but, more inclusive, making it more open to give them the opportunities, and afford them that opportunity?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a need there for some more input, because I know one little boy in particular who loves the bands. And then there's another little boy who doesn't get the opportunity to go and see them because it's too difficult with the transport and stuff like that. Maybe if it was in the local church hall, because we have a lot of churches and it's easier to get to, that Ulster-Scots people couldn't come out and put on little shows for them, especially for them.
And again, that's taking it back into the community.
Yeah, back into the heart of the community where
that we have.
Yeah.
And yourself, Emma, we are talking about these social care needs. Do you think that the Ulster-Scots community, do get the assistance that they need, to get and access those benefits that are required for some people out there?
I think this system is there. I don't think it's adequately funded enough. I don't think that, we've seen the closures of some different like citizens advice bureaus and other organisations because of budget cuts. And typically those budget cuts impact the most vulnerable in society, which is those with additional needs or complex needs. I think one thing that is always overshadowed that we never really talk about is the history and the legacy of the Troubles and the post-conflict trauma that everybody lives with. And so not only do we have people with physical disabilities, we also have those hidden disabilities. Sometimes I do think people can't access the services or know that they're there. I do think we need to do a better job of signposting to existing services, and for those existing services to be more open to adapting to the needs as the needs of the community change.
Like, whenever we do think about, accessing those services and maybe accessing sort of, the benefit system that is there, do you feel that our political representatives, and I'm looking at the both of you here maybe, do you think our political representatives do enough, for their Ulster-Scots community and trying to bring them on board, and give them that help and assistance that maybe sometimes is needed?
Look, I depending on where you live, I imagine there are politicians, in my opinion, more au fait with the system than others. I know where I live, yes, there are good people, and we know that they're doing a lot of good work. But I also know that within the Ulster-Scots community, that there's work going on that's not recognised in any shape or form. And I know of a couple of organisations quite close to where I live, and they would have taken in as a pipe band, and someone maybe with autism would have gone along to the pipe band. I know one little guy in particular, and he couldn't get much help from his school or whatever. He came along to this pipe band. He could hardly speak. Within a year, he was running the band's tuck shop. He didn't play an instrument because he didn't really have an interest, and he just wanted to hear the playing. But he was running the